Rest in peace, Edelman's career.
Edelman. All right.
So, what do you have as far as a take on Edelman? Good career, bad career?
Great career. 3-time Super Bowl winner and 1 Super Bowl MVP.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I know.
So here's the thing. When I looked into it, yes, I agree.
It's a
great career based on wins and stuff like that. Statistically, he's a lot less impressive than I thought.
Hold on a second. You famously said careers are built on championships.
Mm-hmm.
This man has 3
Mm-hmm.
and an MVP.
You're
so
right.
you can't discredit that no matter what.
All right. Well, it's good. A good thing you brought that up because I have his regular season stats and his playoff stats. So suck it. So here's the regular season thing that actually kind of shocked me because I was always under the impression that he was pretty good. Julian Edelman on a career over 12 years had 620 receptions. That's 51 catches a year, roughly. He had 6,822 yards, which is 568 yards a year. And this is the one that really shocked me.
Okay.
Over his 12-season career in regular season, he had 36 touchdowns. That is 3 touchdowns a year on
41
average.
total.
That's counting his playoff touchdowns. So in the playoffs, I don't have his games played, but 118 receptions, which is about 1/6 of his total, or as compared to his career. 1,442 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he was good in the playoffs. He was great in the playoffs, but just regular season, average longevity. I'll give him the longevity, but
Yeah.
Poor man can't walk anymore.
wasn't as. And again, I would always say he was because again he was always a solid fantasy dude, but.
No, he's productive.
Not even fantasy. Like that's the whole thing. Like
That's why
productive.
but that's like my like a big thing I say all the time. That's where you kind of can't compare fantasy football to real football because like you can have a great fantasy.
I didn't even think he was that great in fantasy.
But
No,
he was
a
but he
PPR
was
guy.
never bad. He was always a good PPR guy.
Yeah.
He was always a good
Yeah.
He was a flex player.
good flex player. Like
All right, so second most postseason yards, second behind Randy Moss. I mean that is it, Jerry Rice. I'm sorry, not Randy Moss.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, that's pretty good stat to have.
Oh, yeah.
Especially,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, to go to the Super Bowl how often? I mean, you got Bill
That's the whole
Belichick and
thing.
Tom Brady. So I understand why some of it's like discredited, but at the same time, I mean, he really was. It was like him or Gronk.
yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like I think that no doubt, and I don't think any of us are argue that he will be a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying
no shot.
No shot.
No shot.
Hall of Famer?
No shot.
Absolutely.
Not a shot on earth.
Absolutely.
You don't think he'll get into the Hall of Fame?
Not a shot on earth. He has not even anything remotely Hall of Fame about him. Not even 10,000 yards. No. Patriots Hall of Fame. Patriots, but not Hall of Fame. He doesn't have it. If Wes Welker's not going to be a Hall of Famer, he's not going to be a Hall of Famer.
Wells Welker probably will be a Hall of
I
Famer.
don't think so.
He's eligible already.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It all depends on the sports. It all depends on
Are
who
you
nominates
gonna,
him.
my whole thing is, are you going to say that Julian Edelman is one of the greatest wide receivers ever?
No, but postseason
That's-
he's got a lot of good
And
postseason stats
bless
for
you,
that.
and I agree with you, but I don't think that you get into
When I think of the Patriots, I don't think of Edelman.
Yes, and I don't think you get into the Hall of Fame based on having good postseasons. Because I'm sure there's been like a lot of players that have had good postseasons, but
Then
when you have
Eli
a
Manning
horrible
doesn't go to the-
career, he's one of the top statistical quarterbacks ever.
What?
He's a
and
500 quarterback.
But he's one of the top statistical quarterbacks. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, everyone is impressed by Drew Brees based on stats. Eli Manning has stats to back himself. What I'm saying with Julian Edelman is Julian Edelman does not have the stats. That's what I'm saying. He doesn't have the stats. He may have the playoff success,
and the rings.
but that's
Chips.
yeah, and that's all because of Tom Brady.
And a Super Bowl MVP. And that's what I agree with you. I definitely
Yeah, and I
agree that
don't-
He
he's...
shouldn't have won that
Yeah.
Super Bowl MVP, but he did have that sick catch.
But he has it.
It kept
At
the
the
game
end of the
alive.
day, he has
And
it.
I'm going to say right now, I will bet every cent I have Julian Edelman is not a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver because
It depends who
when you
nominates
think of
him.
Hall of Fame
unanimous.
caliber wide receivers, no, because those are the Randy Mosses. Those
Yeah.
are people like that. We question if Antonio Brown's going to make the Hall of Fame.
I think he will.
And if we question Antonio Brown, Julian Edelman's not getting it.
But it's for different reasons of why we're questioning.
Actually, Antonio Brown may not. I think he should.
Julian Edelman had a longer career, though.
Here's the whole thing about Antonio Brown. The reason why it's the same thing with that kept T.O. out. No one's doubting T.O.'s skill as a receiver.
And he's in now.
He's in now.
It took him
But what took him forever, and he was almost out of chances for how many times he entered into the Hall of Fame, that he could never be in the Hall of Fame ever again after that, is the fact of his ego and his attitude. That's what, because it's political at that. That's just politics at that point. That's not even the fact of the thing. That's the whole thing. It's like where Julian Edelman was never that problem, so the
no, but he was never that good. That's my whole thing. Your playoffs thing is one thing, but I don't think that gets you into the
I understand what you're saying about the whole sum of a career. I get that. I completely agree with you with that. But it depends what you value more. And I think it depends on the sports writers if he's even nominated to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But I think he will be nominated because of the 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Well, how many Super Bowls does a guy like Deion Branch have from back in the day? Is he a Hall of Famer?
I have no idea.
That's my whole thing. And again, I think Wes Welker was significantly
Give me a different guy. Deion Branch, I can tell.
Well, I'm just trying to think of a Patriots player. I just think of players that get into the Hall of Fame and takes them a while. And Julian Edelman is just not. He's never been spectacular. He's never done anything. If you let Julian Edelman in, there's so many he's a par player. Yes, he has the playoff success, but there's no doubt he was carried in the playoffs by Tom Brady. I think it's a discredit to a lot of other players, to guys like Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, anybody. Even a guy like T.O. T.O. was a dominant player. Julian Edelman was never 1/10 of the receiver that T.O. was. And again, I understand the politics thing, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what you did on the field. And I just don't think Julian Edelman did enough on the field on a regular basis. When you're averaging 51 catches, 568 yards, and 3 touchdowns a season, I don't care what you did in the postseason. Again, we all agree that I put the most weight behind postseason, but guys like Drew Brees have consistently been top tier players. I would never consider Julian Edelman a top tier. I think he should be in the Patriots Hall of Fame, but to put him in the NFL Hall of Fame, I think it's kind of a slap in the face to other guys. And that's where I'll close my argument, but I think it's kind of a slap in the face to truly great Hall of Fame receivers. How would you feel if you were pushed off?
I don't think that's pushing off anybody. I don't think that devalues anybody else. That doesn't devalue any other receiver. I think just the fact that he's still, no matter, at the end of the day, he deserves it because of his playoff success and because of his championship.
Listen, regardless, I don't think it's first ballot.
No, and I think even if he did get in.
Yeah, I'm going to call it right now. I don't think he gets in. I'm going to almost guarantee he doesn't get in. Because I think that the NFL has better standards than that. If you let Wes Welker in, you have to let every fucking...
Why is Wes Welker the measure?
Or not Wes Welker. Because I think Wes Welker is probably the greatest slot receiver in the Tom Brady era of the Patriots. And that's where I would put Julian Edelman in that Wes Welker style receiver. And I think Wes Welker was 10 times the receiver that Julian Edelman ever was.
I think that Wes Welker doesn't deserve to go
because Wes Welker... And I don't think he's in.
Has he ever been entered?
I don't know. And he won a Super Bowl with the Broncos.
Because I know last year. Yeah, that's why I think he should. I think 100% Wes Welker should be in the Hall of Fame.
Again, I think it needs to be a whole. Where I agree with you that yes, you have very impressive.
Because the regular season stats are probably
but
similar.
when you don't have good regular season stats, I think it weighs you.
Because I think skill.
I'm gonna check.
Because I think it's that always comparison that you have to always try to narrow down, try to find the middle game. We call Tom Brady the GOAT not because of all his stats per se. We call him the GOAT because of
the man's got rings.
Got rings on 2 hands, and he's almost needs a third. At this point,
that's got 8.
That's the whole thing. It's that's why we call Tom Brady the GOAT. And there are other quarterbacks like Drew Brees, like Peyton Manning that we watched that were always statistically better than Tom Brady, but we always called Tom Brady the GOAT because he won at the end of the day.
Winning.
And that's the whole thing. It's it's got to be that fine line. I don't think that putting Julian Edelman in the Hall of Fame devalues people like Jerry Rice or the elite of the elite.
I don't either.
So I don't. Maybe it might be tiny. If consider your thing. Maybe it's lowering. What I feel like you're worried about is lowering the standard into getting into the Hall of Fame. I think skill should only be one part of it. Like, sure, these people are the best of the receivers, but I think the rings do have to come
but I'm not
into
talking
play.
about skill.
Yeah, but Dan Marino
And I
is
don't
never
think Julian Marino has the skill, or Julian Edelman has the skill either. So in the Wes Welker thing, he played 12 years. He has better regular season stats. Julian Edelman has 620 receptions. Wes Welker has 903. Julian Edelman has 6,822 total yards. Wes Welker has 9,924. Julian Edelman has 36 career touchdowns. Wes Welker has 50. And then in the playoffs, Julian Edelman has 118 receptions. Wes Welker has 88. Julian Edelman has 1,442 yards. Wes Welker has 866, and they both have 5 touchdowns. So Wes Welker has better regular season stats, and then I would say comparable playoff stats because of the touchdowns.
That's a close body.
And if Wes Welker's not in, I don't think Julian Edelman should.
I think they both.
So
That's why I think.
and that's where I would just disagree. Only because I think the Hall of Fame should be reserved for the best of the best, the absolute goats of their positions. Not just like, yes, I agree, the playoff thing matters, but I don't think that playoff thing puts Julian Edelman in the. If we were going to say, all right, we can only have 50 receivers ever in the Hall of Fame,
That's
Julian
different.
Edelman wouldn't. That's what I'm saying. If you can't even put him top 50. I don't understand how he's a Hall of Fame.
Because there's way more than 50 receivers in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I don't know about that.
I would.
There's gotta be.
Gotta be. Do you know how long the Hall of Fame's been going?
Yeah, I don't know.
There are people who are dead that have been entered into the Hall
I'm
of
gonna
Fame.
check.
Structures is
There's only 29 wide receivers
Green
in the
Bay,
Pro
not
Football
Tampa
Hall of
Green
Fame.
Bay, sorry.
Because I wanted to talk about Tampa Bay.
Real quick, we gotta go back. There's only 29 receivers in Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now I'm gonna say it 100%. Wes Welker and Julian Edelman do not.
Yeah,
deserve to be.
now knowing that.
Not
they
amongst
probably don't.
29. So that's my stance since knowing that.
Okay.
29 Hall of Famers. That's not